Ado, Vivarium, the music video. We're here to check it out, and I'm going to point out, as you might know if you've already been following this channel, that yes, of course, I've already done a reaction to the song, the audio, but I'm really intrigued to check out the music video. Now, back here, you can probably see I had been watching the pre-music video stream that Ado had been sort of streaming, but then I decided to pause it and just wait because I didn't want to give myself any spoilers. And the reason being is that this thumbnail that you can see here, it really does make you think. It really makes you think about, given how personal this song clearly is to her, given how it ties in with the book, and I think there might be other materials that she's releasing around Vivarium, she's clearly talking about something very personal in her life, and we appear here to have an image of the side of her face, where usually we only see Ado in the form of either a silhouette when she performs live, or in the form of the animated music videos and various animated characters that appear for her when she does her recorded material. So when it comes to this particular song and this particular release, I think there's something very personal here, and I don't think it's completely out of the possibility that she might do something like a face reveal here. And I mean, to be honest, doing a reaction to a face reveal isn't so much the thing that I'm here to do, but I feel like there's going to be something personal in this. Sorry, I had to skip there because I had an advert up here. But I think there's going to be something very personal in this music video. I certainly feel like it's something that she cares about. And as a result, I thought it would be pertinent to at least come here and record something. Now, if it just turns out to be nothing, then fair enough, but I mean, assuming that she's going to be appearing in this music video at all, as it appears she is, then let's contribute my thoughts and see where this goes. But anyway, yeah, so we're going to load this up now. I'm just making sure the volumes and everything that's set up. And we got 10 seconds to go. And let me turn up the sound for you. And let's see what it is that Ado's going to deliver for us. Dramatic music is one thing. Let's go. I love how hyperactive and messy the song sounds. I'm assuming that is her. This is the cover art. That's such a cool image. I still love that. I love how the video is really capturing that sense of, again, that sort of chaotic artistic vibe of the song. That's so carefully covering her face. Oh, that is nice. Slicing the image in half there. I feel like they're teasing. But then again, her live shows are very much like teasing her in silhouette. That is really cool that they've done that step there. Very beautifully filmed. A lot of almost stereotypical imagery is very beautifully displayed. Ah, of course, this is the oh, this is where the flowers are. Yeah, and of course, this is like representing the wardrobe, the closet she's talking about. Wow.
このくらい箱には止めどなく私が私の夢を見ていて触れられる距離のまま離れないで
Again, you don't see what the image is until it zooms down. Running alongside her well-represented anime form. That's beautiful. And again, I think this is really it makes more sense now I've seen it play out. Think about it being a little closet area, but superb. Absolutely brilliant. Do we get credits? We do get credits. Starring Ado Ao. Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Do you know what, actually, this, I think in a way I prefer this to what... There's so much going on in this video that I do think needs to be praised. Because here what we get, first and foremost, and I think most importantly, is, in my opinion, and maybe controversial here, I would say this has got to be the best Ado video to date. Partly in the order that it's expressing, especially from such a personal kind of song, but also, you know, I can't deny I have a slight innate bias. As much as I love the animated videos, as much as I know that the Japanese culture that I've lived in for so long is one that very much adores the animated medium of expressing things, I've always loved live action direction. I have always had a love for things that are live action. You know, don't get me wrong, I can love animated things, but live action to me always, when it's done properly, that is always the peak medium. And just the pure, raw ability to show human and show the expression. And the thing is that Ado is showing so much expression here, just simply in the way that she's moving and sort of performing on a real life set. And there's even points where the line between what is actually her and what is animated could well be blurred. And yet I still feel like this is something where we get a wonderful connection, a wonderful insight, or just a feeling of being a little bit closer to her as a person here. And it's almost as though, in a strange way, this music video is breaking down that door, if you like, breaking down that cupboard door, closet door, wardrobe door, whatever you want to call it, between the Ado who has always been there in the songs innately, and actually being closer to her in a more realistic sense, as, you know, the artist actually making, you know, sort of bringing herself to the fore. So I feel like the music video does absolutely everything that you would want it to do. Now, obviously, we haven't had any... and I'm just going to quickly skip past this point, because I think this is a very simple point, but worth mentioning anyway, as I mentioned it at the beginning. We haven't had, like, a face reveal here. But what we have had is she's shown quite a lot of her face in this video. It's the sort of thing where if you were the sort of person who's going to obsessively sit there and put it all together, you can make out most of her from this. You know, she was showing the side of her face, very much in full, you know, her eyes and everything. You know, didn't show the entirety of her face, but basically, you know, made it pretty clear what she looks like. And so I feel like this was also done in a very careful and honest way, where instead of just slamming her face in one image and saying, this is what I look like, now share this image out to the world, instead what she's done is she's just allowed us to see enough that we can kind of feel like we recognize that we know what she looks like. We know, you know, we can imagine what her image is without just straight up doing something as direct as a face reveal. And again, I really like that. It's the ability to use the art form to make that connection between us, the audience, us, the fans, and her as the artist, without having to step over that line. Again, I really like that factor. It's the sort of thing where we feel like we should know what she looks like, but it's not like now when she walks down the street, immediately everyone's going to go, wait, you're Ado, you know. And again, that's great. I really think that's a very good way to handle this expressive step over a certain line without, again, making it something so overly simplistic. So for me, I really do enjoy every single facet of the way that was handled. But the one thing that I really wanted to talk about first and foremost, and I say this again as someone who, I've not done big budget music videos, but I've directed a lot of music videos, and I've always been a big fan of indie music videos. I really adore music videos as an art form. It's always going to come second to the primary song, but I feel like a well done music video is the ability to properly convey what's happening in a song, but in the visual form. Once again, thinking about using the medium, the form that you're dealing with, to really say and express something. And I just love the way this is handled. The funny thing is, there's so many things, so many images, well, at least a couple of images we'd seen prior to this music video, which I would have said were very evocative images, but I hadn't necessarily put them together. So, for example, the image where you have what appears to be a brightly lit corridor, and I think it's like flowers lying across the floor. I think this is the image that's being used for the book. And then, of course, the image used for the CD cover, or at least the release cover for Vivarium, which is that very interesting image for her sitting in front of the computer screen in the dark room. I hadn't even put together that this is the same room, it's the same corridor. But of course, seeing it here, you see that this is all done on that same set. And I love how they've used this set, because this set, in a strange way, is like it's the closet, wardrobe, whatever you want to call it, that she's hiding in the song, that she's sort of screaming and crying inside, trying to break out of. Now, obviously, here we get a very artistic set that you could say, well, look, if you grew up with a wardrobe that was that big, you didn't grow up with much of a struggle. But in actuality, before the angry comments start coming in, obviously I'm joking there. And this is interesting because in a way you could see this either as an expression of a confined space she's trapped within, or it could also sort of refer to her still being confined as an adult, because the area we look at now, it much more looks like the kind of wardrobe that a celebrity would have, this big walk-in wardrobe, this thing where you can walk down there and you've got all of your clothes, and yet at the same time she still could be singing about still feeling confined. In fact, there's a part in the song where she talks about the fact that kind of not being able to even relate to the fact that she's now an adult, and the thing about turning 20, and she's kind of made it clear that the point of becoming an adult and separating those two people is not so clearly defined within herself. So you could say that this is almost like her now, with her success and her assumed wealth, still being that person, or still feeling like she's that person who was much younger, trapped inside that small space. But I do find the actual set itself very interesting. Again, it's beautiful how they've used lighting here to make it almost like two different sets in two different scenes. The way that they've cut it down the middle to do this bit, absolutely love it. Really weird reference, but it reminds me of that movie Buried. I think it was called Buried, or Trapped, or something like that. It was the one with Ryan Reynolds where basically he spent the entire movie inside a coffin, a film that is not good if you have claustrophobia. But yeah, this reminds me of that. It really does feel like what she's doing here is for a quick side-by-side comparison, there you go. It's like it's like the similarity between being trapped in a box and being trapped in a box. It's kind of, yeah, it really just made me think of that when I saw this scene, the idea that they're cutting something in half and filming it like this. But I love that aspect. I love so much about the fact that you have these scenes here where, again, they're using the silhouette that has been obviously such a large factor of her performing live. They're using it here and they're working it into the music video. Again, this is a scene that we've seen in a billion music videos before, the kind of Shibuya Crossing-esque scene where someone's standing there and then everything's sped around them and people rushing by to sort of indicate you being isolated and yet still being in a very crowded place. But again, this is being done in a way that looks artistically beautiful, fits with the rest of the video, and also has a bit of imagery that is almost quintessentially Ado-like. We have these little shots where the camera is sort of zooming in by the side of her face, which again, I think this is something where a lot of people are going to feel that there's a certain closeness where you really get to feel a little bit closer to, oh, look, there's a bit of a face, there's a bit of a face. I think that this is just so well handled, so much of this, That instead of something as I'm not sure which the word is I'm really looking for, but something as on the nose is the kind of the idiom I want to go for as a face reveal. Instead, what we get is something where we just genuinely get to feel close to her and get to really feel like she's stepped out from behind that curtain without having to step out from behind that curtain. I got to be honest. So, usually when I do these videos, I'm just kind of talking about the artistry and everything and trying to give my opinions on that. But I want to perhaps add a little bit of a personal aspect here myself as well. And say that as what we're really talking about is the way that she's relating to her fans in this video. I guess it's an interesting frame to leave on. I guess the one thing that I would perhaps say myself is my own personal feeling. I genuinely just feel good that this has happened. Because I know she's got like the radio show and everything. A lot of us are busy people. We don't have time to sit down and listen to the radio show all the time. I would say, though, that this video makes me feel a little bit closer to her, or at least closer to her art. It adds a human aspect. I was talking in a short video that I recorded earlier today about what it would actually mean if there was something as direct as a face reveal. I mean, it would be lovely for her to sort of take ownership of her art and step out from the wardrobe, the closet, or wherever she was, and sort of make herself be known. But by the same token, she very much has this power as being a voice of the small downtrodden person. A lot of her songs are singing powerfully out loud emotions that I feel a lot of people feel. She's almost like this big loud voice for people who maybe don't feel like they have big loud voices. And that is an interesting power that she has. So by not showing her face, she allows her songs to be these kind of vessels that people can imprint their own life stories upon. You can listen to an Ado song and you can feel like it's your song, and her face is not there to in any way eschew you of that image. So for me, this being the most personal song that really does feel like it's very much about her and her life, I love that she's shown enough of herself to make this about her, make that connection with the fandom, step over the line a little bit, but not lose the mystique, not lose the innately Ado-esque quality of being a bit of a mystery. And I love that. I love that. I think this was really well handled. I really enjoyed it as a piece of art. I really enjoyed it as a music video. Thought it was well directed. I felt it sped along beautifully when there was the chaos. It mixed the bright scenes and the dark scenes. It mixed the animated scenes with the non-animated scenes. And for me, this was just a video that really just kind of nailed the mark. And definitely, in my opinion, my favorite Ado music video to date. There you go. So anyway, get in the comments. As always, tell me what you think. And until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these. For now, ciao, ciao.